Unveiling the Mysteries, Fascinating Insights into Arthur Schopenhauer's Life. Arthur Schopenhauer was born in the bustling city of Danzig, now known as Gdansk in Poland, marking the beginning of a life that would deeply influence philosophical thought. His early years in the 18th century port city laid the foundation for a mind that would later challenge the very fabric of Western philosophy. Schopenhauer's most notable contribution to philosophy, The World as Will and Representation, emerged in 1818, capturing his profound insights into the nature of reality. This seminal work proposed a groundbreaking perspective, viewing the world not just as it appears, but as a manifestation of will, a concept that would resonate through the ages. One of the first Western philosophers to draw deeply from the well of Indian philosophy, Schopenhauer bridged continents with his thought. He found in Eastern philosophies a reflection of his own ideas about desire and suffering, incorporating these into the core of his philosophical explorations. At the heart of Schopenhauer's philosophy was the notion that the world is driven by a ceaselessly dissatisfied will, a force that perpetuates suffering. This radical view positioned him as a stark contrast to the more optimistic perspectives of his contemporaries, offering a lens through which to view the harsh realities of existence. Unlike many of his philosophical predecessors and peers, Schopenhauer harbored a deeply pessimistic view of human existence. He saw life not as a journey towards fulfillment or happiness, but as a struggle against desires that could never be fully satisfied, a perspective that set the stage for existential and nihilistic philosophies that would follow. Arthur Schopenhauer's philosophy profoundly impacted the existential and nihilistic movements that followed, planting seeds of thought that would grow into the rich, complex theories of existence and meaninglessness that characterize these schools. His exploration of the darker aspects of human existence laid the groundwork for a deeper understanding of the human condition, challenging the more optimistic views held by his predecessors. Deeply influenced by Indian philosophy, Schopenhauer was among the first Western thinkers to integrate these ancient teachings into his philosophical framework. This fusion enriched his concepts, especially his views on desire and suffering, providing a unique perspective that resonated with the existential themes of search and despair in the human experience. Schopenhauer's assertion that the world is driven by an insatiable will struck a chord with many. This idea, that behind all existence is a blind, relentless drive, leading invariably to suffering, presented a starkly pessimistic view of reality. It was a concept that not only challenged prevailing philosophical ideas but also offered a new lens through which to view the human plight. Unlike his contemporaries, who often held more optimistic or neutral views of human existence, Schopenhauer embraced a decidedly pessimistic outlook. He saw life as a cycle of desire and suffering, a perspective that set him apart and deeply influenced later philosophical thought. His willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about existence earned him a special place in philosophical history. Schopenhauer's contentious relationship with other philosophers, notably G.W.F. Hegel, further highlighted his independent thinking. His criticism of Hegel as a charlatan underscored his disdain for what he perceived as obscurity and pretension in philosophy. This candor and willingness to challenge established figures and ideas contributed significantly to his philosophical legacy, emphasizing his role as a critical, if solitary, voice in the wilderness of philosophical discourse. Arthur Schopenhauer's profound engagement with the Vedas and Upanishads marked a pivotal turn in Western philosophy. His immersion in these texts enriched his understanding of desire and the world, laying the groundwork for his seminal concept that the universe is driven by a relentless, dissatisfying will. This revolutionary idea stood in stark contrast to the rationalist and often optimistic views of his contemporaries. Schopenhauer posited that this perpetual striving leads inevitably to suffering, a perspective that painted a far more pessimistic view of existence than was common in his time. His philosophy suggested that true peace could only be found in the cessation of desire. His skepticism extended to the academic philosophers of his era, particularly G.W.F. Hegel, whom Schopenhauer famously criticized as a charlatan. This bold stance highlighted his belief in philosophy's need to address the realities of human suffering and desire directly, rather than getting lost in abstract systematization. Schopenhauer's interest in Eastern philosophies was not merely academic, it signified a profound respect and appreciation for their insights into the nature of reality and human suffering. This made him one of the first Western philosophers to truly integrate non-Western perspectives into his work, broadening the scope of philosophical inquiry. The influence of Schopenhauer's engagement with Indian philosophy extended far beyond his lifetime, inspiring countless thinkers and artists to explore the depths of human desire, suffering, and the quest for tranquility. His work serves as a bridge between Eastern and Western thought, illuminating the universal aspects of human experience. Arthur Schopenhauer, despite his profound intellect, faced a life marked by obscurity and financial difficulties. His groundbreaking ideas, while revolutionary, failed to garner the recognition they deserved during his lifetime. This lack of acknowledgement left him to navigate through life's challenges without the accolades his work would later receive. Schopenhauer's philosophy, characterized by a deep-rooted pessimism about human existence, diverged sharply from the more optimistic views of his contemporaries. He saw life as filled with suffering, driven by an insatiable will. This perspective made him a solitary figure in the philosophical landscape of his time, often at odds with prevailing sentiments. One of the most contentious relationships in Schopenhauer's life was with his mother, Johanna Schopenhauer. Despite her own success as a writer, their interactions were fraught with tension. This strained relationship added another layer of complexity to Schopenhauer's already solitary existence, further isolating him from familial support. Schopenhauer's disdain for the work of G.W.F. Hegel, whom he considered a charlatan, exemplifies his willingness to critique his peers openly. This critical stance alienated him from the academic community, making his philosophical journey even more solitary. His outspoken criticism of Hegel underscored his belief in the value of genuine insight over academic pomp. Despite his challenges, Schopenhauer's love for animals revealed a softer side to his character. He was an early advocate for animal rights, a stance that was quite unusual for his time. This compassion towards animals contrasted with his often misanthropic views, showcasing a unique aspect of his philosophy that emphasized empathy and kindness towards all living beings. Arthur Schopenhauer passed away on September 21, 1860, in Frankfurt, Germany, leaving behind a legacy that would only be fully appreciated after his death. Despite facing obscurity and financial hardship during his lifetime, his philosophical insights eventually found their audience, igniting posthumous recognition that continues to grow even today. Schopenhauer's concept of the will as the driving force behind existence significantly impacted existential philosophy, reshaping how existence, desire, and suffering are understood. This idea provided a foundation for existentialists to explore the human condition in more depth, emphasizing the struggles and contradictions inherent in life. His exploration of psychological phenomena such as repression and suppression predated the formal development of psychoanalysis. By delving into the unconscious mind, Schopenhauer laid the groundwork for future theories about the human psyche, influencing notable figures like Freud, who would later expand on these concepts. The pessimistic tradition in philosophy owes much to Schopenhauer's work, which challenged the prevailing optimism of his time. His willingness to confront the darker aspects of existence and human nature provided a sobering counterpoint to more idealistic philosophical approaches, encouraging a more realistic examination of life's challenges. Schopenhauer's influence extended beyond philosophy into the literary world, inspiring writers like Thomas Mann. His ideas about will, desire, and the nature of reality resonated with authors, shaping the themes and narratives of 19th and 20th century literature. Through his profound impact, Schopenhauer became a pivotal figure in both philosophical and literary circles. Arthur Schopenhauer harbored a profound skepticism towards democracy, advocating instead for the guidance of an enlightened elite. He believed that the masses were ill-equipped for self-governance, a view that positioned him at odds with the democratic ideals gaining traction during his lifetime. Schopenhauer's perspective reflects his broader philosophical pessimism and distrust of human nature. The concept of the eternal feminine, introduced by Schopenhauer, had a far-reaching impact on both psychology and literature. This idea suggested an archetypal feminine principle that transcends time and culture, influencing human behavior and societal norms. It sparked discussions that continue to resonate in debates about gender and identity today. Schopenhauer's emphasis on willpower has found echoes in the self-help movement of the 20th century. He argued that individuals are primarily driven by their own desires, which leads to a perpetual cycle of pleasure and pain. This notion underlines the importance of mastering one's will to achieve personal fulfillment and peace. He contended that human beings are incessantly motivated by personal desires, ensnaring them in a cycle of fleeting satisfaction and subsequent suffering. Schopenhauer's analysis of desire and pleasure presents a grim view of human existence, marked by continuous striving and inevitable disappointment, a cycle he believed could only be broken by renouncing desires. Schopenhauer posited that true wisdom and inner peace are attainable through an understanding of the nature of reality and a renunciation of desires. This philosophical stance suggests that liberation from suffering and the attainment of tranquility are possible, but require a profound shift in perspective and lifestyle, emphasizing the need for a deeper comprehension of the world and oneself. Arthur Schopenhauer's philosophy is deeply rooted in pessimism, emphasizing that life is fraught with more suffering than joy. He argued that our existence is marked by a relentless cycle of desires and frustrations, leading to inevitable disappointment. This bleak outlook on life challenges the notion that happiness is the natural state of human beings. Schopenhauer was profoundly influenced by Eastern philosophies, particularly Buddhism and Vedanta, which colored his perspective on life and desire. He was among the first Western philosophers to integrate these ideas, asserting the importance of understanding and adopting elements from Eastern thought. This cross-cultural philosophical approach enriched his theories, making them more comprehensive and globally relevant. In the realm of psychoanalysis, Schopenhauer's concepts of will and desire laid the groundwork for future exploration by thinkers like Sigmund Freud. His ideas anticipated Freud's theories on the unconscious and libido, providing a philosophical foundation for understanding human behavior and motivation through a lens that wasn't strictly rational or scientific. Schopenhauer's views on addiction and compulsion further demonstrate his influence on modern psychology. By applying his concept of the will, he offered early insights into why people might engage in harmful behaviors despite knowing the negative consequences, highlighting the power of irrational forces in shaping human actions. Despite his skepticism towards academic philosophy, Schopenhauer believed in the profound importance of personal experience in shaping philosophical insight. He argued that true understanding cannot be achieved solely through reading or instruction but must be lived and felt. This belief underscores the value he placed on individual perception and the subjective nature of reality. Arthur Schopenhauer's exploration of aesthetics broke new ground by emphasizing art's role in society as a means to escape the suffering inherent in human existence. He viewed art, especially music, as a unique realm where one could momentarily transcend the relentless will driving the world toward endless desire and suffering. Schopenhauer was openly critical of the Enlightenment's optimism and rationalism, presenting a stark counterpoint through his writings. He argued that the rationality and progress championed during the Enlightenment failed to acknowledge the underlying irrational forces governing the world, primarily the will, which he believed led to inevitable suffering and discontent. In his discussions on ethics and morality, Schopenhauer placed a strong emphasis on empathy and understanding, diverging from the rational deduction that characterized much of the philosophical thought of his era. For him, compassion was the foundation of moral behavior, arising naturally from the recognition of suffering shared by all beings. His philosophical contributions extended to the concept of the will to live, a principle that has influenced both philosophical and scientific discussions around life and evolution. This idea suggests that all actions are driven by an inherent will to continue existing, a concept that has intrigued and informed evolutionary biologists and philosophers alike. Despite his often critical and pessimistic outlook, Schopenhauer's work ultimately aimed to guide individuals toward tranquility and peace. He believed that by understanding the nature of the world and our desires, one could achieve a state of resignation, thereby escaping the cycle of want and suffering, leading to a form of inner peace.